Whites, as I've indicated, think that they are nonviolent people. They will measure their levels of physical violence with black levels of physical violence. And as I said, they run a statistical game. And they'll often get away with it because people associate violence with physical interaction. You see, so we talk about violence and automatically we think of murder, killing, physical attacks and assault and so forth. But you see, when you're in power, there's another form of violence available to you. And when you're in power, you can call it by other names because power gives you the right also to define. And the power to define manipulates people's consciousness and blinds them to reality. And therefore, the ruling classes can appear to be even effeminate, nonviolent types. Wouldn't hurt a fly, but are yet the most violent people around. Because we cannot discount psychic violence. The violence against a person's mind. The violence against a person's perception of who he or she is. The violence that occurs from depriving a person of wholesome and healthy experiences that motivate and that provide the foundations for their healthy mental, social development as persons. Violence that motivates self-hatred. Violence that motivates alienation from the self and from the other. Violence that destroys initiative, that destroys persistence, that destroys the capacity of a community to organize itself socially and politically to act in its own interests. Violence that motivates many people then to engage in the self-destructive acts of drug addiction and other addictive forms of behavior. This is the most utter and the deepest violence of all. For often people can survive and respond and bounce back from physical violence. But the violence done to minds from the very first days of birth and from the very first years of life are extremely difficult to change. As a psychologist, as a person engaged in therapy, you come right up against the fact that it's usually those first 2, 3, 4, 5 years that are still working in a distorted personality. Those first 3, 4, 5 years that had driven a person insane, made them neurotic and maladjusted. And sometimes it takes almost another 3 or 4 or 5 years to even begin to get them on the path to healthy adjustment and behavior. A type of violence that breeds violence in itself and makes it appear that violence is self-initiated. And it's the type of violence you see that whites have visited on blacks so that they can stand back and say, we are not hurting them, we are not killing them, they are doing it to themselves because they've hidden the foundational violence, and that is the violence against the black consciousness and the black mind in such a way then that it expresses itself as black on black violence.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live broadcast on the forecast. And I'm back again. Shouts out to everybody that's out there listening. I'm gonna be honest with you, I wanted to come on today, and then I also wanted to do something, even though I don't even have much to talk about. And I get it, because I don't even be using this platform right. I honestly do stuff to I guess piss off even the people that listen to me, you know. But at the end of the day, I want to get back to what I'm supposed to be doing, with my life and with everything, and I want to get back to the Black History lesson, finish the Black History lesson, and definitely finish the book that the Black History book, where we actually talking about the truth about history, and just even this past week I went to the Black History Museum. And, even that is just offensive to me at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's just not saying I know everything or whatever, but knowing the information that I know and knowing what it seems like, but then knowing the information that most of us know. If I didn't go out of my way to get this information, then I wouldn't know it either. And I'm gonna be honest, I kind of lost my anger and it turned into, I guess, sadness or something. And even now is a slight irritation that, yeah, I might be extreme, but it's the fact that we are so weak that I see why we continue to be in the situation that we are in over and over and over. But anyway, like I said, I ain't have much to talk about, but I did want to come on here because it's a specific day and a specific ancestor that we definitely needs to shout out. And I need to get back on my stuff, you know what I'm saying? I think I can find my anger again and I can come back. And by the way, if anybody want to come on, you can come on and talk about anything. I ain't gonna be here super late today or whatever, but if you disagree with anything that I say, and see, I guess that's a part of my problem. Like, I but sometimes I would just want to get proved wrong, you know what I'm saying? So I wish that I was wrong about all of this stuff, but I don't think I am. But anyway, so before I even start going, hopefully this share stuff will work this time. If not, oh well. All right. Maybe I'm echoing. I think. No, I'm good. I'm good. I can't. If anybody out there, y'all can tell me if I'm echoing. If not, it is what it is. But I wanted to show the videos or whatever. Now this is just some side stuff. When I went to the museum, but it's what's up. This is you can definitely tell the difference between black art and white art. They're a bit weird with it. Um, but you can see like some of the stuff from the Egyptian exhibit. Whatever. Hopefully ain't no echo. I don't know. It is what it is. I don't care. And yeah, they got a live mummy there. And if it is haunted, then I would probably be haunted too. Not a live mummy, but an actual mummy. You know, that's crazy. So, but yeah, and then of course I went to the Black History Museum, and this is one of the only pictures that I got though, because y'all already know about Odyssey Wells, because they just gave her this little small corner. When I think she was, if I had to pick a hero, it would be her. To be honest with you. All right, so that's why I'm like, we got to get back to the truth about the history or whatever. Because if we knew better, we would probably do better, right? And it is what it is. And I know y'all probably missed the old stuff where y'all come on here and say all the stuff y'all want to say. But it is what it is. And you got the opportunity to do that right now. So, but anyway. So, what's going on, Raw? What's going on, Raw? I was just showing some pictures from when I went to the museum, and yeah, that Egyptian stuff. It definitely seemed like it definitely had that Negro energy, if you ask me. I mean, you could tell the difference between the Greek naked babies and stuff. You already know how Greek culture is. And I can't even see how many people is listening because it's gonna tell me zero, even though I got like two things myself, and Raw is in the building. Shouts out to Raw. Anyway, So I'm gonna get to my point in a minute, and because I ain't gonna lie, I'm just be irritated by the weakness of black people. No, no, what that happened today? The founding of the Black Panther Party. Damn, it's an echo. I don't know how to fix it. So I guess I can't be on here long if it's an echo or whatever, but oh well, we'll keep going with it. Because I ain't even sharing the screen. All right. So can you hear me though, Raw? Is it that bad? Cause I don't know why my whole thing is just crashing like this. All right, just in case I'm echoing. um, I'll just go to the point. So today, I'm clear. All right, good. All right, so today in history was the day that the brother Gabriel Prosser um he died today in 1800. So you know, 225 years ago today, they put this brother to death for leading a slave revolt. And so I definitely want to get his brother his. All right, good. Because I don't know what's going on with my computer and all this other stuff. So I guess we got a little bit of this.
The first sound was not the hammer, but the silence before it, thick as wet cloth pressing into the lungs, waiting to be torn. Then came the strike, iron against iron, a ringing that split the dark like a wound. Each spark spat into the night did not fall. It hovered, it writhed, it flared like fireflies dragged from the underworld, alive for an instant before shriveling into black dust. The forge glowed in the hollow of the cabin, a red wound stitched into the Virginia night. Shadows bent around it like supplicants, kneeling, swaying, whispering. The smell of burnt coal clung to everything, the walls, the skin, the lungs, in a scent both earthly and infernal, as though hell itself had opened its throat to breathe through Gabriel's fire. Gabriel Prosser's arms moved with a rhythm older than chains, older than bondage, and a rhythm of creation, of reshaping. Sweat traced down his neck, but his eyes burned with something colder, sharper. In every swing, he struck not only steel but the memory of lashes, the weight of iron collars, the echo of moans buried in the fields. Clang. The world answered back. Clang. The world trembled. Clang. The night itself seemed to listen, and then came the whisper. It was not born of lips but of metal, from the seam where hammer kissed iron. It slithered into the air, faint at first, then rising like steam. Break the yoke. Gabriel froze. The hammer mid-air. The room quivered, as though the walls themselves waited for his reply. A voice, low and hushed, bled from the corner where shadows gathered thickest. You hear it too, brother? One of the men, his face carved by years of toil, leaned closer to the fire's glow. His eyes gleamed like wet stones. Gabriel lowered the hammer, the iron still sizzling upon the anvil. His voice was rough, a whisper within whispers. I hear, the steel sings. Another voice, this one a younger man, cracked like brittle wood. It sings of blood. Do you not smell it? And indeed, and beneath coal and sweat there rose a faint copper tang, sharp, undeniable. Blood, though no blade had cut, though no flesh had torn. The smell slithered into their nostrils, binding them with dread and hunger alike. The men stood silent, listening. Outside, the cicadas fell quiet, as though the land itself leaned closer to hear the forging. The James River groaned in the distance, its waters swollen, restless. Gabriel raised the hammer again, striking once more. Sparks burst forth, a scatter of embers that twisted into forms, faces screaming, eyes burning, chains snapping. The air above the anvil became a mirror of torment. A prophecy scrawled in fire and smoke. The whispers grew louder. No longer one voice, but many, overlapping, chanting, beckoning, rise, rise, rise. The younger man stumbled back, crossing himself, though no priest had ever taught him the prayer. It is cursed, he hissed. The fire speaks damnation, but Gabriel's jaw clenched like iron itself. He leaned into the glow, his reflection in the steel warped, monstrous, holy. No, it speaks truth. The hammer fell again.
Yeah, well, it don't make no sense because I'm on the computer, but I'm using my phone for the mic. And so it shouldn't even be an echo because it's two different things and I ain't nowhere near it, so I don't know what's going on. But is it still an echo?
And again, each strike birthed another vision. Fields burning, gallows splintering, a city trembling beneath barefoot feet. Shadows pressed against the windows as though dozens stood outside watching, waiting, though no figure could be seen. At the fourth strike, the forge flared so violently the roof beams shuddered. A spark leapt farther than the rest, landing upon the dirt floor. Yet instead of dying, it crawled. Yes, crawled, like a living ember, trailing smoke as it writhed toward Gabriel's boots. He stamped it out, but the mark remained, a blackened scar upon the earth shaped like a noose. The men shuddered. One whispered, "Omen." Gabriel did not answer.
Wait, it should be better now. I don't know. Is it better now?
His silence was heavier than words, heavier than chains. His chest rose and fell, his breath slow, deliberate, as though he had heard what none of them dared to speak. The anvil rang again. But this time the sound did not fade into the night. It lingered, a bell tolling in the marrow of the land. Dogs barked far off. A baby cried. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of rain, of storm. And somewhere in Richmond, though no man could prove it, the armory doors groaned upon their hinges, as if stirred by the echo of Gabriel's hammer. The forge's fire guttered low, then surged high, licking the beams with greedy tongues of flame. Within its light the shadows of the men lengthened, towering, monstrous, as though their very souls had grown fangs and claws. The older man fell to his knees, whispering a prayer too soft to name. The younger covered his eyes. But Gabriel did not flinch. He stared into the fire as though it were a mirror of his own heart, fast, furious, unchained. And then came the last whisper, low and certain, curling through the room like smoke into lungs. Blood will be the forge. Freedom will be the blade. The hammer slipped from Gabriel's hand, striking the floor with a dull, final thud. The fire dimmed at once, as if appeased.
All right, yeah, I should be good now. You should be able to hear me.
But outside, thunder cracked across the Virginia sky. The storm had begun, and in the brief flare of lightning, the cabin window reflected not 3 men but 30, their faces pale, their eyes hollow, their mouths wide as if screaming without sound. The night bent low over the field, smothering the earth in a silence so heavy it seemed to press upon the ribs. Through the stalks of tobacco, tall and brittle as bone, figures moved without sound. Men, yet not men, wraiths cloaked in rags and sweat, their bodies scarred, their eyes
So I'm still echoing even now.
burning with the quiet fire of something too long buried. Each step was measured, careful, as if the soil itself might cry out against them. The moon hung swollen, a pale, lidless eye that watched and judged.
They said he was just a slave. But Gabriel Prosser was a blacksmith. And with a hammer in his hand, he dreamed of breaking more than chains. In the summer of 1800 in Richmond, Virginia, Gabriel began gathering men in secret. Not 10, not 50, but nearly 1,000 enslaved men, all ready to rise. His plan was simple and terrifying. On a stormy night, they would march into the city, burn Richmond to the ground, capture the governor, and proclaim freedom with fire. But freedom has a price. 2 men betrayed Gabriel's secret. The governor's militia surrounded his followers. Before a single torch was lit, the rebellion was crushed. Gabriel fled, but he was caught, interrogated, and sentenced to death. He stood on the gallows, 24 years old, a leader who never got to lead. To the slaveholders, he was a traitor. To the enslaved, he was proof that courage could not be chained. And long after his body swung in Richmond, his name became a whisper of hope, passed from one plantation to another.
Yeah, see, that's crazy because I turned off all the speakers, all the microphones except for this one. So there's something going on with something else. I don't know. I think somebody is definitely sabotaging me, but I don't know. I guess I'll try to get through this one. I definitely will try to get through this one and see what we can do. But I don't know what's up with the technical difficulties. I don't know. Hopefully we'll have it fixed by the next time I get on here. So is it still echoing even when I'm like this? Is it still echoing? But I'll keep playing the video real quick.
Spark too dangerous to kill. So what do you think? Was Gabriel Prosser a reckless dreamer who doomed his own followers? Or if
What if I told you that, hidden deep within America's past, there was a secret plan, a plan so bold that it could have rewritten the story of freedom itself? A plan led not by generals or politicians, but by an enslaved blacksmith. Tonight, we unravel a mystery buried for over 2 centuries, the forgotten tale of Gabriel's rebellion. The year is 1800. The United States is still a young nation, barely 24 years old. The revolution has ended. The Declaration of Independence speaks of liberty and equality. But in Virginia, and across the South, thousands of men, women, and children remain enslaved. They hear the words of freedom, but they live in chains.
All right, so you said there's no echo, but it's an echo that sharing the screen. I'm trying to, I gotta figure it out.
And in the heart of Virginia, near Richmond, lives Gabriel Prosser, a tall, strong, intelligent blacksmith. But Gabriel is not ordinary. He listens. He observes. And he dreams. Dreams of something unthinkable, freedom not just for himself, but for his people. But here's the first mystery. How does a man born into slavery dare to imagine overthrowing the system that holds him captive? And more importantly, could he actually succeed? Gabriel is inspired by stories of revolution. The American Revolution just decades earlier. The French Revolution across the ocean. And whispers of another uprising, the Haitian Revolution, where enslaved people fought back and carved out the first free black republic in the New World. To Gabriel, the message is clear: if they could rise, so could he. But revolutions aren't built overnight. And this is where the plot thickens. Gabriel begins recruiting. Quietly. Secretly. Gathering men on plantations, in workshops, in taverns. He uses his position as a blacksmith, always moving, always meeting, to to spread the word. By late summer of 1800, Gabriel has more than 1,000 supporters. Armed with stolen swords, homemade spears, and determination, they prepare to strike. The plan? To march into Richmond, seize control, capture the governor, and demand the end of slavery. It was daring. It was dangerous. And it might have worked. But mystery number 2, why did no one see it coming? Or did they? August 30th, 1800. The night chosen for the rebellion. The men gather. Weapons ready. Hearts pounding. Freedom is within reach. And then the sky breaks open. A violent storm lashes Virginia. Roads flood. Bridges collapse. The march stalls. The carefully timed plan dissolves into chaos. And here's the—
By the way, I could tell you, they were saying, "Oh Lord Jesus, this is a sign from God. Oh Lord Jesus, it's raining outside. That means we can't go up." That was what they were saying when it started raining.
The chilling twist. Was it fate? Or sabotage? Because while the storm delayed Gabriel's men, 2 enslaved individuals slipped away. They carried a secret, a warning. And by dawn, Virginia's governor knew everything. This is the darkest mystery of all. Gabriel's rebellion wasn't crushed on the battlefield. It was betrayed from within. Dozens of men were arrested, interrogated, executed. The rebellion, once a burning fire, was snuffed out before it even began. And Gabriel? He vanished into the countryside. For weeks, he hid, moving from farm to farm, protected by those who still believed. But no secret lasts forever. In September, he was captured. And on October 10th, 1800, Gabriel Prosser was executed. He was just 24 years old. Virginia tightened its grip. New laws forbade enslaved and free black people from gathering, from learning, from dreaming of freedom. Gabriel's rebellion was used as proof, they said, that freedom was too dangerous. But here lies the final mystery.
Yo, what's going on, Cassandra? How you doing? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's still messing up every time I share the screen, but you know what? I don't even care no more. Like I said, man, now I got that energy back. That anger that I had, it turned into sadness because of the weakness that I see from black people. And then, even now, I don't even know why there's so many technical difficulties trying to stop us from, and I'm just talking about simple history. And really, I'm on here and y'all can come up. If anybody want to come up and say anything I want to say, I was just gonna be like, yo, you know what? It is what it is. But nah, if they want to do it this way, fine. We'll show it this way, Now we showing this brother Gabriel Prosser. Shouts out to this brother because on this day today in 1800, so 225 years ago today, they put this brother to death for leading, trying to lead a slave revolt, which happened right here, like right up the street from me, And this plantation he was on, the Brookfield plantation, the stuff is still named after the dude, And we got to come on here and show our ancestors respect and love, especially those who stood up for us and died for us to be here, you know what I'm saying? And this brother was ready to lead a slave rebellion. He made weapons for everybody. He was, down to do whatever. And of course, black people, when it started raining, just because it rained, we like, oh Lord, this is a sign from Jesus, and backed out, and somebody snitched, and they put that brother to death today, and he was only 24 years old. All right, so imagine that, we got grown men that don't do anything, and I want to show y'all this stuff, but It's not letting me show you, so I'm gonna have to actually play it. Now, also on this day, and I'll show you in a minute, this brother here in 1871 was also, killed because of what they now call political violence, because it's nothing new. So I'll share the screen and then I'm gonna mute. And if I gotta say something, I'll come on here. It is what it is at this point. They can't stop us. You know what? I found that energy again, man. I
I
know
know
it's
it's
bad,
bad,
but
but
this
this
brother,
brother,
Octavius
Octavius
K.
K.
Had he not been cut short, he excelled in sports, he excelled in academics, he excelled in community leadership. He was the future perfect for the African American community. And had he not been cut short,
Octavius Valentine Cattle embodies the community's hopes and the city's tensions.
there was this urgency for not just enjoying the trappings of freedom, but the urgency to participate in the process, the urgency to rise above all expectations, the urgency to break down the barriers. And that's why many people call this period of Cato the first civil rights movement. This desire to exercise your freedom is just so human. It's just so human that why not? Why not?
Is one of the most precarious cities of the North, at least for free Black Philadelphians.
The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, passed just 2 years after the Cattle family arrives in Philadelphia, incentivizes the kidnapping of free Blacks. Even in the North, abolitionists face violent opposition.
Mob was a verb in that era. It was a verb that described what white men and boys quite often did if there was an anti-slavery lecture or meeting in town. They would mob that event.
How free is
Now, I'm gonna skip through this a little bit, but we're gonna talk about these abolitionists, these so-called good white folk that y'all seem to think exist, you know what I'm saying? Because they think me, Cassandra Raw, they think we crazy. That's why ain't nobody here now. And I get it. I might be intentionally be pissing people off sometimes, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Y'all need to be pissed off, you know what I'm saying? Because y'all weak as hell. We weak as hell. When I listen to us talk, it turned in from anger to like sadness. Like I'm like hurt by it. And to see and to know all the stuff that I know about what went on and the people that gave their lives for this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And exactly, they don't want the truth. They want it to be comfortable for those good white folk. You know what I'm saying? They want to have this white savior complex, the John Brown complex, because they think it's this white savior that's gonna come out the sky, with straight blonde hair and blue eyes and bring them up to heaven so they can be slaves in heaven. Right? That's what the hell we want. And that's why I lost my anger a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm starting to get it back. But anyway, we're gonna talk about this abolitionist thing, these good white folk, because I know that pisses y'all off too. And I piss y'all off because y'all kind of deserve it, because yeah, they don't want to hurt white folk feeling, but that's why black people got enslaved 3 times in the last 1,000 years, 3 times in or probably 4 times in the last 1,000 years. With this time pending, we could be enslaved in the next couple years. You know what I'm saying? Well, we are. This is for the people who don't realize they're already enslaved. They've been enslaved the whole time. But we could be facing another I don't know, because we already there. What can I say? I'm sorry it hurts your feelings.
Is free when you worry constantly about your children's safety, about whether or not they will be kidnapped and tortured for you to never see again.
Free 59, he returns to the Institute for Colored Youth to teach. The Civil War propels Caddo into activism. Pennsylvania faces an emergency when the Confederate Army invades the state in June of 1863.
Caddo raises a company of black volunteers to join the Pennsylvania Emergency Militia. The company that Caddo recruits presents itself at Harrisburg to the commandant of the Department of the Susquehanna, Darius Couch. Couch refuses their services. Couch makes it clear that in Pennsylvania, only the services of white volunteers have been asked for.
Yeah, exactly, wrong. And we are afraid, and this is the issue, right? We sat up there and fought them to be a part of their army, right? You'd be like, and this is the Republican Democrat debate that y'all have today. One group is saying, hey, let's back these white American people during the Revolutionary War. And then you have the Republicans like, oh, let's go back the British ones. And then they all get screwed in the end because guess what? They're all the same. They have a different genetic thing than you. They have, if you look it up by their science, it says Neanderthal DNA, which you do not possess. So they're completely different. And I don't see how y'all could be like race as a concept when you can look at, I can look at Cassandra, hey, this is a black woman, right? You look at Taylor Swift, oh, this is a white bitch, you know what I'm saying? You can clearly see it, but they're telling you as a construct. Why does that matter? Because you dying of diabetes. You're eating their foods. They study how to make you sick. And you don't even study your own self, your own history in the first place. You know? What can I say? Yeah, if you not learn your past, you're going to repeat it over and over.
And so Caddo's company is turned away.
He was the Jackie Robinson of his day.
Pythians, who go undefeated in their first season. In 1860, with the North victorious, slavery ends in 1865, but exclusion based on race doesn't end. Like many young men, Caddo loves to play baseball. He is the captain of the Philadelphia Pythians, who go undefeated in their first season. In 1867, he appears before the National Association of Baseball Players and makes the case for his all-black team to be allowed into the league.
In a lot of respect.
Okay, I'm gonna translate. Sir, no disrespect to him. I'm just translating. This is how modern Negroes still sound. So it's no disrespect to him. Sir, I knows that we's better than y'all. We hit fast. We hit the ball better. We catch better. We faster than you. We're stronger than you. We's really more smart than you, sir, but I ain't gonna tell you that. But please let us play baseball with you. Now I know my league is making, look at all the monies my leagues is making. But sir, please let me play baseball with you. My team beats yours every damn year. But let me be a part of your system. And I'm the crazy one. That's what I'm saying. Like, because I say the stuff that I say, I'm the wrong one. Yeah, they know exactly how we tick. We don't even know how we tick. Yeah, we don't know our worth. You don't know that your league was better than their league. They came to see you play because who the hell want to go see some white dudes go play sports? They want you to, as they would say, shut up and dribble.
He was the Jackie Robinson of his day. Like today, sports is kind of like the last frontier. If you can break the barrier in sports, then the rest of society kind of follows suit. So I'm certain that Cato must have understood how important it would be for blacks to do well in baseball. Not white baseball and black baseball, but baseball together.
Out of 266 other applicants, Cato's team is the only one with black players. And when the decision comes down, they are the only team denied admission.
He worked very hard to try to integrate it. He didn't succeed, but he had a vision that was so far ahead of where others were.
African Americans believe the end of slavery will usher in a
Well, and look, I'm sure there was other black people that wanted to play baseball with white people, and this is no, and like I said, this is no disrespect to this brother here, because what we're talking about, and I'll show you again. Now, this brother who just wanted to be equal, right? Just wanted to, um, was the had a dream. He got killed. He got shot too, right? Just because he didn't have he had a bunch of people. Wait, as I'm about to show you, he got killed today in 1871. So what is that? I don't know. 170 something years ago. Who knows? I don't know. I can't do the math that quick. Yeah, there you go. On today in 1871.
Gabriel Fail?
Cato and Caroline LeCount meet at the Institute for Colored Youth, fall in love as activists, and plan to marry.
These were students who had come out of a school that really empowered them, that they were change makers.
In 1867, Cato and LeCount succeed in their long-standing campaign to integrate city streetcars.
So while Octavius Cato is pushing for a state bill to open up the streetcars for everyone, Carrie LeCount has a plan to make sure it's enforced.
When a streetcar driver refuses to let her board, LeCount obtains a court order. The driver is fined the equivalent of $1,000 in today's money. To blacks living in the South Street corridor, the heart of the city's elite black life, this is a victory. To poor whites who live across the street in Moyamensing, it's a warning sign. Competing for low-wage jobs, whites see black rights as a threat.
And I'm only stopping it there because there's your poor whites. Not all of them owned slaves. Not all of them were this. Well, those was the most violent ones. The ones that didn't do it, like those was the violent ones. Like they the ones who killed people because you was the threat. You know what I'm saying? And listen, I get it, right? You take my tax money, then yeah, I should have the thing. But why not fight for you not taking my tax money no more? How about that? White boys like, yo, we're gonna cut you off. How about you get cut off of my tax money in the first place? You know what I'm saying? And I get it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this is I can't give a black person a pass after like 1700, but he gets more of a pass than we get today, for sure. All right, let me calm down and just go back to it. I'm with y'all good white folk.
They denounce African Americans like cattle as members of an inferior race trying to displace them.
The one thing which keeps this from going lethal
Sound like they were
is the fact
replaced
that blacks cannot vote. So blacks are, for all practical purposes, politically powerless. That will change dramatically when the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution are adopted.
Passed in 1868, the 14th Amendment grants automatic citizenship to anyone born in the United States. The 15th Amendment, passed in 1870, gives black men the right to vote.
The African
Now, anybody can come on here and tell me, but as they be like, the 14th and 15th Amendment, mate, you have never been a citizen. You ain't no person. You're 3/5 of that is the only time you're mentioned. You supposedly, black man, not the black woman didn't have the right to vote, but the black man had the right to vote supposedly in 1865, right? We don't know that because we think we don't get the right to vote till 1965, right? Why? Because after this amendment is passed, this brother is killed in 1871. Fresh, this is just fresh 14th, 15th Amendment, all that nonsense. Fresh. Doesn't matter. They don't like the laws and stuff, their courts, it doesn't matter because in reality, it's like a lion and a deer in nature. Like they're not gonna be like, let's go to court to settle this, you know what I'm saying? Like unfortunately, that's just how life works, you know. But we don't understand that because we love them.
American population in Philadelphia at the time of cattle was 11%. That was a serious threat.
That set off what modern Americans might call a white backlash.
Political, economic, and racial tensions collide in Philadelphia's election of 1871. Octavius Cattle leads a registration drive for new black voters, hoping to have an influence over city elections for the first time. Neighborhood boss William McMullen gathers the Moyamensing Fire Company in his saloon. He urges them to maintain white rule with the same kind of mob violence seen during slavery.
On election day, in organized fashion.
All right. Now, before we get to the only language that Europeans understand, I will say this. Because they be, oh, who died for the right to vote? They died for the right to. First of all, if you're going to say that, you know, they didn't do that. They were murdered, you know what I'm saying? Because you're dealing with violent psychopaths, you know what I'm saying? But no, it was for representation. It wasn't to choose the lesser of two evils. It was to have an influence within their own circles because you know what they had at the time that we don't? Black towns with black elected officials. You don't know that there was a bunch of black elected officials in the 1870s. You know what I'm saying? When they're talking about voting, they're talking about in our black town, how we're going to run with our black officials, for black people, only black people. It wasn't no people of color. It wasn't no, the Chinese wasn't around. The Mexicans wasn't around. The Jew, all those groups who say they was around, they was not there. It was only black towns, right? And it was for representation. And on top of that, they were murdered, you know what I'm saying? Because they're dealing with psychopaths, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know. But at least these brothers back then had the courage to stand on their conviction and die for what they believe in. Now we will cry to each other on the internet and won't talk to each other and get mad about all this stuff because lesser of two evils, and we want to debate about all of this stuff when the truth is there's only one answer, and that's why it's never been solved. We're dealing with an issue that never been solved because we don't want to deal with the elephant in the room that there is only one answer for everything. But I know. So,
Police and Moya Ho's men physically beat up and took black voters out of line, accosted black men in the street. It was a day filled with terror if you were African American.
Six black men are shot.
Octavius Catto goes to the office of Mayor Daniel Fox and begs for the city to intervene. But Fox has no interest in protecting black voters. So he turns.
yeah, I was gonna ask y'all before I play it. It ain't my fault that I gotta keep stopping it. Y'all should have told them to stop sabotaging me. But I was gonna ask y'all, what do you think? We went to go beg them for help in 1871. What results do you think we got? We went to go beg for help in 2025, and what results do we get? Let's see who's paying attention to history here. And look, and let me say this too, because they be like, oh, hatred and all of this stuff. Do you hate white people? I don't give a about white people at all. You know what I'm saying? I hate that they give so much about us. You know what I'm saying? That they would that the whole world makes an industry. It ain't even just them. I just happen to live here. If I was in Northern Africa somewhere, I'd be talking probably about Arabs and the Arab slave trade as much as I'm talking about this. But this is where I live. You know what I'm saying? My last name, I think I got from the English or the Scottish or Danish or whoever. Because you know what? There ain't no lesser of two evils. They all separate themselves when it comes time to have accountability, as they would say, right? When it's time to pay the consequences, as I say, when it's time to pay the price for what you've done. Now it's, oh, well, white bitches be like, oh, it's white men are impressive. You're the most dangerous species in the whole universe because you jump back and forth. Or they'd be like, oh, it was the French, it was the British, it was the Christians, it was the Muslims. No, it was all of you, like all of y'all, like Shyster Jews, whoever, name them. They took as many as they could, at least 2 to 3 a piece. Is a reason they
Turns to Catto and says, "You'd better protect yourself."
He goes to 3rd and Walnut and buys a gun. It has no bullets in it. And he starts walking back home.
As he walks home, a white man, already bandaged from the day's violence, spots Catto on South Street. And shoots him dead.
His remains are taken back to the Institute for Colored Youth, the school that he helped to run. And people from the neighborhood came that night to pay their respects and gathered around that schoolhouse right there at 9th and Bainbridge, it's still there today, and encircled that building as if to embrace it and protect it.
Octavius V. Catto's funeral procession will be one of the largest Philadelphia has ever seen, second only to Abraham Lincoln's.
They were great inspirational figures, and so their death were not only tragic and devastating, but it removed these very voices that people followed. Black people knew that there was enormous risk in terms of life and death in coming up against white supremacy. But we have many examples of them continuing to do so.
see. We have many, countless of examples of you continuing to do. But do you know why? Because of we got to even make our oppression um soft enough for the people doing it, or you want to call them people, to doing it to us, that they can handle it. Even going to our museums, it got to be PG-13 because a white person might get mad or might or cry or some crazy. Well, if they got a problem, they should have did it or could continue to do it. But yo, we got a issue where we gotta make everybody feel comfortable. Why would you even want to be a part of somebody who want to kill you so bad? That's a sign of low self-esteem, because if you try to be in a relationship with a person who doesn't like you, that's a sign that you have some sort of trauma or and that resulted in low self-esteem, you know what I'm saying? Or you fight to be with somebody who will kill you, and to the point where you will be willing to die for it, when you could have put that same energy into protecting yourself. Now, we only talking about stuff so far that happened today in history. This is just today in history. So shouts out to Gabriel Prosser. Shouts out to his brother Octavius. Um, let's see what else happened this week. Okay. Oh, today. Okay, so and uh you know what? I'll give you something positive real quick before we go. So on this day, this brother made the patent, right? Because we are very smart, creative, but we give away our stuff to make other people billionaires. But this brother patented the bicycle frame. A brother named Isaac Johnson. So I'm gonna show you this brother real quick, just because I want to show you something positive first. And this was I guess he patented it today or whatever, or like they made it official today. And what is it, 1901? So that's 124 years ago today, I guess. So let's see here. All right, let me find it. All right, let's see where that's at.
Day 22 of Black History Month, and we're diving into 29 days of black inventions because, let's face it, we invented a lot of things. In the late 1800s, it was challenging for African Americans to patent inventions. But in 1899, Isaac R. Johnson was successful with his invention of the bicycle frame. While he wasn't the first to invent it, he was the first African American to patent it. Johnson's invention improved previous ones because of its ability to be taken apart and transported. It became popular for travelers and vacationers. His frame is actually very similar to today's bikes, except for their ability to fold up.
Isaac R. Johnson was born sometime in 1812 in New York. While he was not the first to invent the bicycle frame, he was the first black man to invent and patent one, particularly one that could be folded or disassembled for easy storage. In fact, Isaac Johnson's version of the bicycle frame is similar to the version we ride today, as modern bicycles have the same pattern, but they do not fold up. Johnson's version was a folding frame that could be stored in small spaces. It was frequently used while traveling and on vacation. The patent was originally filed for by Isaac R. Johnson in April of 1899, and it was assigned the publication number, US 634823A. The only information we have about Isaac R. Johnson comes from the information he filled out when he filed his patent. We know he lived in Manhattan, New York, based on this documentation. All
right, so I guess, it became official on today, But, that's the thing about black people creating and making stuff. And that's the importance of not selling your intellectual property, especially for nothing. And we should stop underselling our creativity and our, just what we do, what I'm saying? Capitalize on that. That should be a black millionaire, billionaire family because of that. Now, another thing that happened in 1788 that became, I guess, official, is what is believed to be the first formal school for blacks, the Africa Free School in New York City in 1778, right? So I'm gonna show you this, right? And I'm gonna show you these good white folks, these good abolitionists who helped create it, you know what I'm saying? Um, so hold on, let me see. Um, okay. All right, so yeah, I guess I'll just pull it up.
African Free School Number 2. The African Free School Number 2 in the old Five Points district was one of the oldest African schools in New York. The school was run by the New York Manumission Society. Here, 500 children of the free and the newly free learned skills, trades, and the attitude they needed to survive in a new world of freedom. The students also learned reading, writing, arithmetic, and geography. We can see from their surviving drawings that they took a keen interest in world affairs. For example, it seems the students much admired Napoleon, perhaps because he signed the peace treaty with Haiti, the first independent black republic in the Americas. If you went to the African Free School in the 1820s, your classmates would have been James McCune Smith, Henry Highland Garnett, Patrick Reason, and other black youth leaders. Smith called the fight for freedom emphatically our battle. No one else can fight it for us. It is no wonder that this first generation of the school's graduates were inspired to end slavery everywhere in the United States.
Henry Highland Garnett. The Presbyterian Reverend Henry Highland Garnett.
All right. So it's and we definitely will talk about Henry Highland Garnett later. But they mentioned something about this. Listen to what these good abolitionists done. The New York Manumission Society. Right? So I guess I can't show you the screen and I'll play it in a minute, but let me just I would be showing y'all already know I would be showing y'all, but let me see. All right, so it's a New York-based organization, right? Influenced by influential citizens, including John Jay and Alexander Hamilton, to gradually end slavery in New York. Gradually, right? All right, so this was made by these good white folk, right? It sounds good enough, right? John Jay and all of that. So let's see here. I ain't watched none of these, so I don't know which one is the right one, but it is what it is. And I'll let it speak for itself.
Do this to raise your credit score fast.
About a foot tall, is one of a pair. The New York Historical Society also owns the mate, which is identical. In 1818, the New York Manumission Society presented the pictures to Joseph Curtis. The society in shape, but
serving 2 terms as governor of New York, being appointed secretary.
John Jay, one of America's founding fathers and America's first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, first attempted to abolish slavery in New York in 1777. In 1788, the state banned the importation of slaves. By 1799, the New York Manumission Society advocated for a bill signed into law that year by then-Governor Jay, specifying that as of July 4th, all children born to slave parents would be freed by a certain age. When slavery in New York finally was abolished in 1827, only
30 years ago.
11% of the black population was affected and therefore freed. The founders understood that you couldn't have freedom and liberty living side by side with slavery, and they also understood the long road of politics, and when changing society, things take time. He wanted this to go quicker and did his best to speed up the process. In June of 1788, Jay wrote a letter to his British counterparts talking about why anti-slavery progress in America is too slow. Permit us, however, to observe that although consequences ought not to deter us from doing what is right, yet that it is not easy to persuade men in general to act on that magnanimous and disinterested principle. It is well known that errors, either in opinion or practice, long entertained or indulged, are difficult to eradicate, and particularly.
All right, blah blah blah. So he was like, "Oh well, we need to hurry up and end slavery, John Jay. We need to make this thing." And this is one of your abolitionists here. Um, but according to the records, while he was trying to end slavery, let's see here. Um, yeah, John Jay was a paradoxical figure. Is that what they call hypocrites and liars and be? Is that what they call them? Paradoxical figures. Both a slave owner and a staunch opponent of slavery. A dude who didn't even release his own slaves, talking about, oh, we need to it's hard to convince people to hurry up and release slaves. Why don't you even release your own? Right? He was born into a slave-holding family and owned enslaved people himself, as evidenced by property inventories and manumission records. Right? So this abolitionist, right? Because y'all think that this is like this white savior complex even was back then, right? Because they'd be like, oh, the white abolitionist, there are some good white folks. Most of the people that helped on the thing was black people for the most part, like black churches and all of this kind of stuff. You can make more of a thing for black churches than these good white folk. You know what I'm saying? All I can say is show me the proof. Like, prove me wrong about these girls. And I ain't talking about your baby mama, you know what I'm saying? Because when she get mad at you and call you N-word and you end up like the OnlyFans dude, then you're gonna be over here like, oh yeah, you was right. Just like the dude Pelez who used to come on here and he realized his baby mama started calling his kids the N-word. Anyway, so yeah, he in 1717. Now notice they ain't ended to like 1830. He was like dead probably by then. I don't know when the fool died or whatever. But he's the one that created this African free school on today, back then. So he advocated for it, but he owned at least 17, used their services, rented them out, or sold them to others. Yet he was a advocate for it. This was your good white folk, they got pictures of Benjamin Franklin, bald head, but yeah, what was the point of your abolitionists? They was like, well, yeah, these niggas is inferior, but us enslaving them here, they're going to rise up and kill us, so we have to get them out of here. This is, and a lot of them like that. Like they like the Asian girls now, they like the Indians back then, the Indian girls. So they was like, oh, we need to be a white and red nation and kick these N-words out of here. But these are your they call him an abolitionist. This is what I'm saying. These is the good ones here, right? The thing is, you got Schwerner and Goodman, and you got John Brown. So 3 white people in history is good. I'm just saying. That's just the problem is though, is if we wasn't enslaved, I wouldn't give a damn about that. But I suspect that's the reason why we still enslaved and stuff like it. We got distorted personalities and we looking for a savior, you know.
Did John Jay own slaves? Have you ever wondered about the complexities of historical figures and their legacies?
Not
Today,
really.
we are looking into John Jay, a prominent founding father of the United States. The question at hand is whether John Jay owned slaves. The answer is yes, he did. Throughout his life, John Jay personally owned at least 17 enslaved individuals. Some of these individuals were purchased, while others were rented out or sold. Historical records from the late 18th and early 19th centuries confirm this ownership.
Now, my dare to any of you is show me, okay, there could be a good white person out there, right? Now, can you show me this? Show me this good white person. And don't say no damn Schwerner and Goodman. And don't say no damn John Brown, right? And you can say it if you want to, but I want you to say that. So please show me this good white person. And hopefully from this decade, but at least this century, right?
Censuses of 1790 and 1800 list him as owning 5 slaves. By 1810, he had freed most of them but still owned one. His involvement with slavery began in his early adulthood and included both individuals he inherited and those he bought. Interestingly, John Jay was also a strong advocate for the gradual abolition.
All right, it's not that interesting. We know that they are what they would call hypocrites. Anyway, what else happened today? I guess that's all that happened today. Let's see, what else happened this week, right? And since we're here. So yesterday, in 1806, Benjamin Banneker died, who is credited with the layout of DC, which I went to, right? And it's kind of crazy, but they say it's like, I'm not gonna go there. But also I will show you this one. I can't show you, so I'll play it, but it's not a video, but I'll show you in a minute. But on this day, black women helped a black man stopped a black man from being lynched, right? So not today, but on October, like last week or whatever. So a brother named Andrew Troublefield, a black man who was accused of, raping a white girl. So without verifying the story, the Sheriff Tark led a mob of 500 white people in pursuit of the brother with intentions to lynch him without a trial. So a young black woman who saw the mob on his way shouted to him as he fled, attempting to warn him. So she was telling him, and the sheriff arrested and arrested the woman for doing that. And he also arrested his younger brother, right? I guess to get him to come back, I guess threatening him to lynch him instead. And so the mob grew to over 1,000 of them, and they spent over a week in the woods searching for the brother until the police found him on October the 8th. So they transferred him to North Carolina death row despite him being convicted of no crime at the time, and remained on death row. And eventually he got 30 years in prison for attempted rape with no evidence or whatever. But I guess they're trying to say that the sister warned him or whatever. But also, born October the 2nd is this brother who we definitely should have paid homage to last week, just for his birthday and him being born. So we'll do it now, just while we doing this. I'll just pull up the video because I can't say it like I was planning on just showing it, but I'll play it. And y'all free to say something. Y'all can bring up any topic that you want to bring up too, by the way.
October 2nd, we honor Nat Turner, prophet, freedom fighter, and ancestor. Born in 1800, Nat Turner led one of the most significant uprisings against slavery in 1831, guided by vision.
So I want you to understand this, right? In 1800, on October the 2nd, Nat Turner was born. On October the 10th in 1800, that's the day that Gabriel Prosser got put to death at 24 years old. So today, right? And this brother was born like so however many days that was before, 8 days before, right? October the 2nd. And the brother was, like I said, October the 10th, they put Gabriel Prosser to death today. So, and they was born like, or it happened like a county or two over. So,
For liberation. His courage and sacrifice remind us that freedom has always been at the heart of our struggle, and his spirit continues to inspire us today.
We raise your sad.
Nat felt that this violence was necessary to finally bring about the change needed to awaken abolitionist allies and shake the foundation of slavery to pieces. To Nat,
he was like, John Jay, listen.
This wasn't about anger. It was holy retribution. Over the next 2 days, the rebellion brought Old Testament carnage to the Southampton countryside, killing more than 60 whites in their path. Hundreds of federal troops and thousands of white militiamen intercepted the rebellion on its way to the center of the county's government, a town named Jerusalem. Nat managed to escape, hiding himself in the woods for over 2 months until he was found. Once captured, he was quickly tried, convicted, and hanged. His body was desecrated, flayed, and decapitated, with his headless remains buried in an unmarked grave. 30 other slaves and 1 free black man befell him. I'll be last and the last to him. Then, in 1831, a solar Independence Day. But illness befell Nat, and the rebellion began a week later.
The person I'm going to tell y'all about today, I know a lot of you guys know who this is. But for those who don't, meet Nat Turner. And America didn't just execute him. They desecrated him. They ripped him apart piece by piece until he wasn't a man anymore.
Anyway, they didn't ask Nat Turner why the children, why the babies. They didn't ask that question. And I was trying to find the thing, but I guess I ain't looked hard enough. But at least one of the documentaries that showed that part. But anyway, back to what we was talking about. So what else happened this week? So tomorrow, I guess this brother here, this is another positive thing. In 1887, it became official where his patent for the improvement of the safety of the elevator, So it's important that we also understand that we have our minds and the creativity of the things that we need to create, you know what I'm saying? The things that we need to build. So I'll show this brother, this is a positive thing.
Step into Wig Studio.
History. It's part of our new show called Open Mic with Reese Waters, airs every weeknight at 7 p.m. Today, Reese brings us the story of a life-changing invention. Check it out.
Today is October 11th, and it was on this day in 1887 that African-American businessman and inventor Alexander Miles was awarded a patent on his design for automatically opening and closing elevator doors. It's thought his design was inspired by his daughter falling down an open elevator shaft. Relax. She was hurt, but she recovered. Before his invention, elevator door shafts had to be manually opened. By the way, I don't understand this at all. You're an elevator operator, and you ain't closing doors? You got one job. Open the door, close the door. Open the door, close the door. Open the door, close the door. Miles would go on from this to open the United Brotherhood, a life insurance company selling insurance primarily to black folks. Miles, inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2007, died in 1918, an extremely successful, wealthy man.
Many elevator companies initially refused to work with a black inventor, even though his safety device was clearly superior to existing systems. He had to fight for years to get proper recognition and compensation. Every elevator you've ever used safely has Alexander Miles to thank. His automatic door systems became standard in elevators worldwide. Without his safety innovations, skyscrapers as we know them couldn't exist. Any elevator
Thank you for joining me here at Take 5 with Vinay 5. Hey, that's me. Today is January 6th. Lincoln University was founded by Civil War veterans. These veterans hailed from the 62nd and 65th Colored Division Infantry. This is the only school founded by veterans.
I don't know of any other institution of higher
I don't know. I got that messed up. I don't know which one is right. But anyway, so as we wrap it up, let's see what else. All right. Now also on this day, I do gotta show you this, right? Now this one is a little bit too long, but I do got to show you this because this happened a few days from now too. So, and this is like, and what we was talking about the other day.
The night was hot and muggy on the SS Kitty Hawk as tensions among the sailors boiled over. The white sailors had been drinking heavily, and their racist taunts had grown increasingly vile. The black sailors had tried to ignore it, but eventually they could take it no longer. As fists flew, chaos erupted across the deck of the ship. It was a sea of arms and legs, punches and kicks. The white sailors seemed to have the upper hand at first, their sheer numbers overwhelming the smaller group of black sailors. But the black sailors were not to be underestimated. They had trained together and knew how to work as a unit. They began to fight back, taking on the white sailors with an intensity that caught them off guard. One black sailor, a burly man with rippling muscles, charged forward, taking down anyone in his path. His fists were like sledgehammers, each blow landing with a sickening thud. Another black sailor, a wiry man with lightning-fast reflexes, moved like a dancer, his movements fluid and precise as he took on 2 or 3 white sailors at once. The white sailors soon found themselves on the defensive, struggling to fend off the relentless attacks of the black sailors. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and outclassed. As the battle raged on, a crowd of sailors gathered around, cheering on their respective sides. It was a brutal, bloody affair, but the black sailors were determined to come out on top. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the white sailors began to back down. The black sailors had won the fight, and they did so decisively. Bruised, battered, and bloodied, they stood tall, their heads held high in victory. The SS Kitty Hawk riot would go down in history as one of the most epic ass-kickings in naval history, a testament to the bravery and resilience of the black sailors who refused to be bullied into submission. The unruly story of the badass brothers of the SS Kitty Hawk riot. A story that is as fascinating as it is harrowing, a tale of resistance and defiance against an oppressive system. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because we're about to go on a ride. It all started on a fateful day in the summer of '67 aboard the USS Kitty Hawk, and
All right, y'all can look that up yourselves. But you know, shouts out to them brothers for defending themselves. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. All right. It is 2 more things I'm gonna show you, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Because one is a positive thing, and then one is a historical thing that we probably should know. Now, the first thing that we're gonna talk about is a positive thing. Another black inventor, another black creator who did this on October the 13th. You know, the brother Garrett Morgan, who helped invent or invented and patented the gas mask. So we definitely need to show this brother here. And you know, shouts out to the black people who are creative. And then yeah, we're about to wrap it up.
Aspen Dental is on a mission to help people smile again.
For things like a breathing apparatus, a redesigned sewing machine, an enhanced traffic signal, and a hair straightening product, Garrett Morgan paved the way for African Americans to become inventors. The first 3-way traffic light system was created by Garrett Morgan and later sold to General Electric. In Cleveland, Ohio, Garrett Morgan was the first black man to possess an automobile. This is the story of Garrett Morgan. So sit back, relax, let's get into it. Garrett Morgan was the 7th of 11 children, arriving on the scene on March 4th, 1877 in Paris, Kentucky. His mother, Elizabeth Reed, was of African and Indian ancestry and a Baptist minister's daughter. His father, Sidney, was a former slave who gained freedom in 1863. Sidney was a descendant of Confederate Colonel John Hunt Morgan. As an adult, Garrett's mixed-race origins would influence his economic transactions. He worked as a handyman for a Cincinnati landowner for most of his teenage years. Garrett, who was growing up during the turn of the century, had to drop out of school at an early age in order to work a full-time job. While working in Cincinnati, Garrett was able to pay a tutor and finish his education. He relocated to Cleveland in 1895 and started fixing sewing machines for a textile business. Garrett's curiosity in how things function, fueled by this encounter, he developed a reputation for mending things. Garrett began his own repair shop in 1907 after becoming knowledgeable about the inner workings of the devices and how to maintain them. He later received a patent for an improved sewing machine. Because of the success of his business, Garrett was able to settle down in Cleveland and wed Mary Ann Hossick in 1908. During their marriage, he and his wife would have 3 sons. Garrett's revolutionary sewing machine would quickly open the door to his financial independence. As he rode the wave of his economic success, he extended the business in 1909 to add a tailor shop with 32 employees. The new business produced coats, jackets, and dresses using sewing machines that Garrett created himself. Garrett came upon woolen fabric that had been burnt by a sewing machine needle while working with the machines in his recently opened tailor shop, which he had founded with his wife Mary, who was a seamstress. Considering how quickly sewing machine needles spun at the time, it was a regular issue. Garrett experimented with a chemical solution in an effort to lessen the friction caused by the needle, in an effort to solve the issue. And as a result, he discovered that the cloth fibers were straighter. Garrett first tested the mixture on a neighbor's dog with favorable results before using it on himself. As soon as that was successful, he promptly founded the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, where he offered hair care items like his proprietary hair straightening cream, a hair coloring, a hair straightening comb that Garrett had developed himself. Garrett Morgan's financial success.
My bad. Alright, so, and the last thing, I guess, yeah, we do got to talk about this because on that day also, in Arkansas, you had what was called the Elaine Massacre, but, of course we're talking about Black people and doing what we got to do. So this is the last thing, and then I'm gonna wrap it up and get out of here. All right, so here we go. And I appreciate y'all for listening.
Marketed their technologies by giving live demonstrations. In these public
These Black folks wanted justice, but they were met with violence. What if I told you that one of the most powerful acts of Black resistance in U.S. history is a story you've probably never heard of? In the Red Summer of 1919, racial tensions engulfed the nation, and Elaine, Arkansas was no different. I'm Garrison Hayes, and this is Town on Fire. Elaine was a majority Black cotton town less than 100 miles from Memphis, built on the exploited labor of Black people from slavery to sharecropping. And a storm was brewing. As Black men returned from war and Black land ownership grew across the country, resentment was starting to set in. And Black sharecroppers in Elaine were tired of exploitative wages and constant injustices in their majority Black town. So they came up with a plan. They'd unionize and demand better conditions. This wasn't just a fight for fair pay, it was a battle for Black dignity and respect. But the white ruling minority didn't want that. On the night of October 1st, Elaine's deputy sheriff arrived at a local Black church to disrupt the union meeting taking place there. Though details are fuzzy, what is certain is that gunfire erupted between armed Black guards protecting the meeting and the law enforcement seeking to disrupt it. The Black guards killed a white security officer and injured Charles Pratt, the deputy sheriff. Over the next few days, things would get ugly. Under the orders of Arkansas's governor and the United States Secretary of War, hundreds of police officers and 500 federal soldiers would be deployed to Elaine with machine guns in tow. Armed white mobs of more than 1,000 civilian men would flood into the town from neighboring states like Tennessee and Mississippi, ransacking homes and businesses and setting Elaine on fire. Some estimate that more than 800 Black people were killed and the rest were displaced, but not without a fight. Surprisingly, no white people were arrested, though 122 Black people were charged with crimes like murder and night riding. 12 Black men were sentenced to death, and 65 others were sentenced to 21 years in prison. During their trial proceedings, however, the NAACP, led by attorney Scipio Africanus Jones, successfully argued before the Supreme Court that these Black folks were treated unfairly by the judicial system, overturning their sentences. While the Elaine massacre would devastate the Black community, the resistance of these brave Black people set the groundwork for the kind of defiant Black dignity that would come to define the civil rights movement and beyond. Today, descendants of the massacre's survivors demand reparations. One descendant said this: "Our people became poor overnight and are still poor. After 1919, there was no more wealth for African Americans here. We want our land back, the land our people once owned." This is
Now, that is a whole nother thing in itself. Like, we want our back. And one fell swoop, we lost everything, and we still ain't got nothing. But, hey, listen. People can only respect one thing, you know. And I had some, but I'll play that later. You know, I appreciate y'all for listening. Shouts out to you, Raw. Shouts out to Considera in the building. I appreciate y'all support, Considera. Definitely I appreciate you for always listening, Raw. And everybody else who came on here for a little while. You know, it is what it is. I don't know what else to say, but y'all already know, man. But as always, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.